Welcome to The Standard. From Vancouver, I'm Peter Klein. A little later on the show, we'll chat with scientist Jennifer Gardy about the God particle and the intersection of religion, politics, and science. But first off, the chief organizer of the Vancouver 2010 Olympic and Paralympic Games, John Furlong. Nine years ago, John Furlong officially joined the effort to bring the 2010 Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games to Vancouver. After the city won the bid in 2003, he became the CEO of VANOC, the organization charged with hosting the event. Now, just a few weeks after the closing ceremonies, Mr. Furlong is winding down the organizing committee he has led from the start. And John Furlong joins me in studio. Welcome.
Hi.
I feel sort of obliged to say congratulations. Do people walk up to you on the street and
Yep. Yeah,
I mean, you're sort of a rock star now. You're a real household name. What's it like walking
I hope I'm
around?
not a rock star. It's fun. You know, it's been a very intense period. We started, you know, a group of people started to think about doing this in 1996. And it was very much a volunteer effort for 3 or 4 years. It's a long time to be involved in something, and it's gone through so many peaks and valleys, but it requires an enormous effort to put an adventure like this together and complete it the way it has. It feels very positive walking around today and seeing how people have reacted to it. What's more interesting is how people are reacting across the country. I mean, you kind of would expect if something big happened in your own city, it would kind of affect people, and people are talking about it still, but in places like Montreal and Toronto and Halifax, there's been a serious impact on how people feel about Canada, and that's a huge bonus, and it feels very good to have been part of that. We had a great team. We worked very hard to deliver what ultimately turned out to be a great result for the country, and we're very proud of it.
Like at the checkout counter, and do people recognize? Do people volunteer their thoughts?
Yes, they asked me to sign their cornflake boxes.
Do they?
Well, it's happened once. It happened to me the day after the games ended. But yeah, yes, they do, and people, and it's, people do want to talk about it. People feel, I think, a need to say something, to say thank you, or to tell you about the experience that they had.
And how's that different than before? I'm sure people volunteered their opinions, both good and bad, before the games, right?
Well, before the games, we were still going through, until very late, a debate. You know, there were people who had all kinds of opinions about this, about whether it would be good or bad, and these discussions were going on. And then as the games started to unfold and the world started to arrive, people started to think, oops, it's actually happening, and it's going to be very positive. And so now the discussion is, well, there are two groups. One is, it's fantastic, I had a great time. And then there's another group who feel like it really caught them by surprise. They were stunned about how good it was, and they thought it wouldn't be. And there are people, for example, who thought the city would be log-jammed, it would be full of cars everywhere, you wouldn't be able to move around.
No, I know people who left town
that.
fearing that it would just be difficult to get on with normal life.
Yeah,
but it wasn't really that way at all.
It wasn't like that at all. It was great fun to be in the city, and now people are talking about how to replicate it and how to build on the energy that the games showed that you can have in a city like Vancouver. So it's been very positive, and I think people have been affected by this for the long term. I think people have felt something, and I think in the future, if the city or the region or the province or the country decides to invest or try to put stage events like this that are intended to I think it'll be easier for people to come to grips with that.
Pave the way. Now, the games have been over for almost 2 months now, but you're still involved, certainly. I know a few weeks ago you were actually in the Republic of Georgia for the memorial service for the Georgian Luger. Tell me, what was that like? Did you talk to the family members?
Yes, I visited their home. It was a very difficult trip. I went. Were
they angry, or did they?
No. There are parents who have lost their son, and they're broken-hearted is the way I would describe them. They are wonderful people. I went with my colleague Renee Smith-Valad, and we traveled across Georgia, and you could see this is a country that has been through a lot. And this little village is a very impoverished place. There's this athlete and 2 other athletes from the Georgian Olympic team were Wayne Gretzky in that town, and you know, so they were very popular young athletes, and the family, of course, fully expected their son to come home a hero from the games,
right.
and they're brokenhearted. And we visited them. We were in their home. We visited the boy's bedroom. We went to the church that's under construction where he's buried, and it was a very difficult day. But I can't imagine a scenario where we wouldn't have gone there.
But you felt welcomed.
Oh, absolutely.
There was no animosity
none whatsoever.
Because there certainly has been discussion that things could have been done differently to avoid this death, but there wasn't a sense of finger pointing in Georgia.
None. I mean, at the Winter Olympic Games, in all winter sports, the athletes are the best in the world. They compete flat out, and in almost every sport, things happen. There are accidents all the time, and of course, they never expected that their son would be catastrophically injured and killed. You know, but you know, it happened, and it was a terrible thing. It was an awful thing for everybody to endure. It had an enormous impact on our team and on our country, and on that country, and it was terrible. And I think for that family, what we're trying to do is to give them a hand. We are doing the best we can to help them out, so they have a fighting chance. They have one other daughter, and so it was. I think we will have a special connection with them forever. This incident, although it's over now, I don't think it'll ever really be over for us. I mean, you can't go through something like this.
It's almost like losing your own child.
I did feel it was like losing my own son. I saw the young man in the church on the morning we had his body repatriated to Georgia, and it was a very difficult thing to be through, and I can imagine for any parent who would have this happen, there's just no words to describe how it makes you feel. So it was very, very difficult. But when it happened, and as we went on through the games, in one way, it turned my team into a stronger team. Our team had to overcome this and overcome what happened. Everybody felt terrible, but we had to deliver the games, and I think as it all unfolded, we did a pretty good job, and the games turned out in the end to be a great experience for the country. We grew as a result of it. It's not how we would have wanted it, of course.
What do you mean you grew?
We became stronger, more resilient, more together, and besides, the country stood up and gave us a hand, and every Canadian felt like they wanted to pitch in. And after we came out of the church in Vancouver on the morning of the funeral, I noticed the Vancouver Police Department officers who had come to give the hearse an escort to the airport. And the police officers were there in their uniform. They'd come voluntarily to do this, and they were all in tears. You could tell that everybody wanted to help. Everybody was trying to help us overcome this so that we could deliver a great game. So it had a big impact on people.
Luge is a dangerous sport, but there are certainly other skeleton and ski jumping. I mean, I went to a number of these events. My heart sort of stops every time they were flipping in the air. You're afraid they're going to land on their head. Were you gun shy after that experience, thinking, oh my gosh, I hope, you know, what can we do to make it even safer for everybody else? Obviously, you made the changes on the track for luge, but were you worried that you know, there could be other deaths?
We didn't make any changes.
You didn't
on
make
the
any
track.
changes?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No. The Luge Federation made decisions about where they wanted to start the race.
Right, where
I think the
start
psychological
the race.
impact on the athletes in luge was severe. And I think the Federation wanted to do something to reduce that, and they did what they did. But the other sports carried on the same track the way they had originally planned. It was very difficult, and obviously it was everybody. You can't go through something like this and not feel it every day. We did. The Luge Federation did what they needed to do to make their sport work well at the games.
Right.
But the thing is, at the winter, we had hundreds and hundreds of visits to the clinics through the period of the Olympics. Athletes compete flat out at the games. They get hurt every day. They get injured every day. You don't expect anything like this, but you know, we've all stood and watched a skier come down the hill and take a bad turn or go over on the edge of his ski, and suddenly he's crashing through. It happens at the Winter Games, and and every sport, you know, as a result, has to spend a great deal of their effort making sure that these venues and these sports are as safe as they can possibly be. But as long as athletes compete against each other, they're going to go as fast as they can.
Well, we have to take a quick break, but you've described the death of the Georgian luger as losing a son. You also lost really a father figure in the lead-up. Jack Poole, the founder of VANOC. We'll talk about that and more with John Furlong after the short break.